I was working on my anatomy lab yesterday for school, and we were learning about the thyroid. The thyroid, hypothyroid, low thyroid condition symptoms would include fatigue, weight gain, cold intolerance, dry skin, and depression. And overactive thyroid symptoms may include weight loss, rapid heartbeat, heat intolerance, tremors, and anxiety. And I was like, oh my gosh, like to some degree, everybody's experiencing some of these symptoms, you know? It's like, why do we ever go into a psychiatrist's office or whatever? Why do we ever get prescribed an anti-anxiety or depressive medication when there's clearly probably something likely going on with the thyroid? You know, and the thyroid is like our master metabolic regulator. And if you notice, it says too, cold intolerance and heat intolerance. It regulates our body temperature. That's what I love about the carnivore and ketogenic diet, because it completely changes the thermodynamics of the body, of the system. We cut down on all excessive heat production, and it's really just a focus on what exactly we need. So I just like, as I was reading that, it kind of made me angry just for like the version of myself in the past, because when I was 22 years old, like I was finally went to go see a psychiatrist because I was not feeling well. I was doing the best that I could. I was trying to eat better, trying to exercise, but there was still like this emptiness that I felt. And I, you know, at the time, like I thought Nutella was a health food. Like I thought like eating all this whole grain bread, and you know, I'm so sensitive. What I've learned over the years, you know, that's partly why I started the carnivore diet a few weeks ago, and why I've been primarily carnivore for the last 6 years, because I know the difference that I feel in my body when I'm not getting enough nutrients in. But I was on this medication, and I remember I went back to get it increased because I really still wasn't, I was still feeling low, and I didn't know what was going on. And I didn't want to feel that way. And I was out in the lobby, and I was like, you know, the medication I was on was a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So I just Googled, I was like, serotonin biochemistry. And then it pulled up the amino acids and tryptophan. And I was like, amino acids, that sounds so familiar. Like, I think I learned about this before. And so that Google search changed my whole life. And I went into the office and was talking with her. I really wanted answers. This lady, like, did not want to talk to me. She was like, I'm just here to prescribe medications. If you want to talk to someone, we'll set you up with a psychologist, you know? Someone who's prescribing medications should be talking to you. They should be getting what is your average life looking like on a daily basis? What are your habits? No. She was just there to sign off on a prescription. It made me so mad. And I was like, I asked her, I was like, okay, so I just figured out, you know, serotonin comes from tryptophan, and tryptophan comes from animal-based protein. So if I eat more animal-based protein, I should have more bioavailable serotonin in my system, right? And she's like, technically it does help, but some people just have chemical imbalances. I was so mad. I was so angry, and there was this loud no in the center of my being. There was this loud no, this is not it. I do not like this. And I remember I was so upset when I left. And also, I was realizing too, I was like, Rachel, you can't be angry at this person who's just, they went to the school that they went to, they were taught the things that they were taught, and they don't ask questions. And, you know, their job is to prescribe medication. If everybody was healthy and eating these proper foods, getting the exercise, like they, you know, they wouldn't have a job. So, I had a lot of anger though to get rid of. And you know, still, like, when I read things like this, it makes me so frustrated for all of the, especially young women my age. Like, we're facing infertility, endometriosis, PCOS, which they're calling diabetes of the uterus. You know, all of this goes back to insulin resistance too. If you look at all the themes of like, what does the diseased body look like? Insulin resistance, right? That's energy resistance. There's light sensitivity, right? The circadian rhythm gets thrown off. There's mitochondrial dysfunction. There's common themes spread throughout all disease, right? And that is low energy. and the immune system is working harder. So that's why, again, I go back and I say ketogenic diet and carnivore, they don't even rely on insulin. A lot of times we're sidestepping the need for insulin because I'm just going to go for what exactly I need. I'm investing into my mitochondria. And that's why they discovered that it's basically a fasting mimicking diet without going into starvation. So it's a safe way to like mimic the GLP-1 pathways, right? Mimic these healing pathways. That's why there's incredible stories with it, and that's why they used it as a treatment for people with epileptic seizures, people who have seizures like all day long. They found, oh, if we starve them, they actually have less seizures when they're starving. And then so they put them on a ketogenic diet and they found that it greatly reduced the epileptic seizures. So there's something to be said about how useful the ketogenic diet and the carnivore diet is for the brain itself. And, it just amazes me. And then now we have countless stories on it. And if you go look at that No Carb Life podcast, you will listen to these stories, incredible, incredible stories. And so, as I'm just looking at this, I listen to people's symptoms all the time. Dry skin, dry eyes, just feeling anxious. It's like these are symptoms because, like I say, we all have dementia. Like we forget that we're supposed to be in a flexible, joyous, childlike state. And, I even think of it because I'm like my family, I grew up Catholic. I'm not Catholic anymore. I'm not religious. I'm more on my spiritual journey. Sometimes it makes me angry that like the church doesn't talk about nutrition. It doesn't teach the nitty gritty of it. It's like they teach to have a childlike mentality in the Bible and what Jesus said or whatever. The kingdom is within. It's the mitochondria. That's the kingdom. Like he just didn't have a microscope to look deeper, but he was talking about the mitochondria. Mitochondria is powerhouse of the cell. They literally do everything. They are the epigenetic regulators. They are the environmental regulators of our genome and what we're expressing. They hydrate the cell. They create endogenous melatonin. Like it's so beautiful. It's so simple when we do give the body enough of what it needs. So a lot of times people say with carnivore and keto, I just want to talk about some of the troubles that people run into that I've heard of, and that one of the things is not having enough fat in the diet. And there's a doctor named Dr. Elizabeth Bright. She teaches people, she gets them on a carnivore diet and they come to her with all these metabolic issues. She gets them on a carnivore diet and she gets them on the 80-20 rule with 80% fat and 20% protein. And, I have to say for myself, like in the first 2 weeks, like I had a rough transition because you're withdrawing from sugar. You're withdrawing from this easy energetic pathway. Getting carbs in, that's easy. Like the easy money, but it doesn't, that glycolysis pathway, it doesn't give us much return. It's what you're doing when you're switching off these fuel sources. You're going from easy money to delayed gratification. You're going into a further investment strategy. So I experienced sugar withdrawals. I had trouble sleeping for the first 2 weeks. I also started the diet the week before I started my cycle, which was not the smartest, but I really just had to get into it. I just had to start. But I was eating a stick of butter a day. I'm still eating a good amount of butter and sleeping a lot better. But I was like tossing and turning at night. I was not sleeping well for the first 2 weeks that I was on it. And like that's because the body is going through this adaptation phase. The gut bacteria is changing. And it's beautiful. And what a lot of the doctors say, and that's why I say listen to people's mistakes that they've done in the diet so that you can, if you learn from other people's mistakes, you're still going to make your own. You're still going to go through your own trial and error and things will pop up because everybody's body's different. But at least you can help spot treat some of the issues that they were running against. So for me, I was like, okay, I'm definitely going to eat enough. My thing is like, I'm going to eat the butter because that's easy. Just go in the fridge and chomp on a bite of butter. They have that steak and butter girl who talks about how she also did the same thing. But, we need fat. The brain is made of fat. Every single cell membrane is made of fat, So when you go back to, the situation with the man Ansel Keys and how he did the 7-country study and how he skewed the results, and he said a high fat diet is what's causing heart disease. You know, he left out countries like France, which they had one of the highest intakes of fat and they had the lowest result of heart disease. It was really sugar that was causing that issue. So it's beautiful, the body, like when you give it what it needs, like the same thing, when you give it all the amino and fatty acids, we can actually produce our own sugar. We produce our own amino acids. It's so beautiful. And then again, you're dropping entropy levels. So any excess heat, you're kind of, regulating the system a little bit better. So it's so beautiful, and that's just been a little bit of my journey with the medications and stuff. So like years ago, I did that search and I left my psychiatrist's office and I was like, okay, I need to start eating more tryptophan. I need to start eating more. Oh, okay, where is tryptophan found in? Oh, animal-based proteins. And then I started learning more about like red meat and stuff too, because I thought red meat was bad, right? Like I didn't want much, I liked a medium burger, but I wasn't about to eat anything rare, mid-rare, right? And I started learning, and I'm like, oh my gosh, implementing too. I told myself, I'm like, I'm going to eat eggs for breakfast every single morning because I know that has tryptophan in it, has all the essential amino and fatty acids, so that is going to be my new medication. So I did that, and then I was slowly adding in supplements, cutting out processed foods. I started to wonder if the supplements that I was taking and spending my money on was really being used to its fullest capacity. And that's when I started learning more about red meat and how all of our supplements, minerals, nutrients are in real whole food. And I started looking at the monetary difference between the supplements and the food. And I was like, I am spending way too much money on these supplements, which I don't even know if some of them are being completely used in my body, bioavailability. So then I switched over and pretty much went for red meat, a majority. And you just feel it. You feel it like immediately. And I think that's the biggest thing is just like, you don't know how tired you are until you start feeling more energy, And same thing with rest. Like you think you're sleeping good now and you wake up and it's like, but maybe you could sleep so much deeper and, feel so much more calm, so much more joyous and at peace, and patience. Mitochondria, they are the powerhouse of patience. Irritation, agitation was something that I felt years ago, and it was like this shame cycle that I felt with it too, because I would feel irritated or agitated with someone in my family or whatever, and I did my best to like not be snippy or snappy, but when you feel irritated, like it's really like someone's breathing too loud next to you and you just like shut the fuck up, like you're aggravating me, you're irritating me. It's like you have no bandwidth for patience. And so I didn't like that about myself. I didn't like that I felt snippy with people, because I know myself to be a very patient and calm person. I'm very, very patient. And, so that was like, it was like, I am not being who I am, and then I feel bad about this. So, yeah, now we double down on our red meat, double down on the fat, and like, it turns out I am a patient person, and I'm flexible, and I can go in the sun, and I could tan, and, your teeth doesn't get as much plaque on it when you're not eating as much sugar. And it's beautiful, it's beautiful what the body does when you give it everything that it needs. And sometimes when you're going through that healing process, like I said, you may be struggling with inflammation and stuff like that. I talked about eczema the other night, but the immune system has been elevated and has been working time and a half. So you are the CEO, and you want to make sure that you're paying your employees plenty. Like, especially if they're doing work for you, you want to pay them for their time, especially if they're working overtime, which is what our immune systems are doing right now. So you just, like when I transition in this diet too, like I'm not doing crazy insane workouts. I'm really not even lifting that much at max. Like I'll lift some days very lightly just to move my body and connect, but most of the time, like I'm just getting a lot of steps and I'm walking, going out in the sun, You know, I'm not trying to beat my body down to death to push myself against the grain. You know, as we get caught in this mentality, like we just need to push ourselves to the brink of exhaustion. Otherwise, we are not doing our bodies a service. But especially if you're a woman, give your body time to adapt. We are on a 28-hour cycle, and men are on a 24-hour cycle. Their hormones reset every 24 hours, and ours are more fluid with the environment. They're fluid with our cycle. So, you know, if you notice times of the month where you just feel more tired, you need more rest, you need more nutrients. You know, our bodies communicate through us in different ways. It's so beautiful, the difference between men and women. And if you are a man, like too, like learning about a woman's cycle is, that's how we connect intimately. Like, you know, that's one of the best ways is to understand the fluctuation patterns of a woman's cycle and to support her through those patterns and the nutrients of what she needs too. You know, it's the same thing with someone saying like, I feel really anxious, I feel tired, I'm depressed. Well, it might help to increase your fat intake, increase your amino acid, your, you know, all those nutrients that help us feel more stable. You encourage people. You don't say, oh yeah, you are anxious and depressed. You encourage them, say, go for a walk, get outside in the sun, you know, instead of just going towards medication like we all do. But anyway, I'm going to leave this here. I hope this is helpful for you in some way. My passion is for us to deeply understand the biochemistry and the symptoms that we experience so that we can make changes in our life from a place of empowerment. And so I'm not aiming to be perfect. I'm aiming to spread my passion and my love. So I always encourage you to do your own research. And that's why one of the reasons why I have my comments turned off on here, so that the next click you go to do is you Googling serotonin biochemistry. Like, just go out there, learn what you can, find doctors. YouTube is a university, it's a school. It's taught me so much. So go out there and explore and do your experiments, you know? So anyway, I love you so much. You're so beautiful, and I'll catch you next time.